All right, so for today's lesson, we are going to be learning how to determine the meaning of a word using context clues. So we're going to go through a few passages, and then we're going to go through some ways to help us figure out the meaning of the word that we don't know. So would someone like to read the first passage?
I will read the first passage. By the Indian's side, and evidently sustaining a companionship with him, stood a white man, clad in a strange disarray of civilized and savage costume. Although, by his seemingly careless arrangement of his heterogeneous garb, he had endeavored to conceal or bait the peculiarity, it was sufficiently evident to Hester Prynne that one of this man's shoulders rose higher than the other.
Okay, great. So first step is to identify the word with which we are unfamiliar. In this case, it's heterogeneous. The first thing to think about is, have you ever seen this word before? Do you have any associations with this word at all? Does anyone have any associations? I'm sure you all know it, so for the purposes of the lesson plan, pretend not to. Okay, so we're going to jump through that part. Does anyone know the word's part of speech? That's a very important step in determining the meaning.
Adjective.
Okay, good. Adjective. Great. Next, are there any elements of the word that give you a clue to what it might mean? Maybe a prefix or a suffix, that type of thing, any part of the word? Does anyone recognize a part of that word?
The prefix hetero.
Hetero. Do you know what hetero means?
Different.
Okay, good. That's a good clue. Okay, great. Now, from there, we're going to go to confronting the context of this passage. Can anyone point out a part of the passage, some phrase or some word that gives you a clue to the meaning of the word heterogeneous?
Well, we know that he's clad in a strange disarray of civilized and savage costume.
Great, okay. Anything else?
Peculiarity.
Good, okay. Last ones, anything?
It's a seemingly careless arrangement.
Okay, great. Alright, so from there, we've got a bunch of clues. Let's try to determine a rough or working definition. Could everyone write down some thoughts on what they think the meaning of this word might be? Couple more seconds. Okay. Would someone like to share what they think this word might mean?
Varied.
Okay. Anyone else?
I said, like, it's a mix of different styles.
Okay, good. Okay, so heterogeneous, the dictionary definition is consisting of dissimilar or diverse ingredients or constituents, mixed. So we got it pretty close, right? Okay, let's move on to the second passage, and this time you're going to do it on your own. Go through those same steps we just went through. Would someone like to read passage number 2?
I'll read that.
Okay, great.
Hester sought not to acquire anything beyond a subsistence, of the plainest and most ascetic description for herself, and a simple abundance for her child. Her own dress was of the coarsest materials and the most somber hue.
Excellent. Okay, so we're looking at the word ascetic. So if you could, on your own, go through those steps. First, determine your familiarity with the word. Have you heard it before, seen it, seen words like this? Determine the part of speech. Go through the context clues, maybe underline things in the passage that give you a clue to the meaning of the word. And then lastly, you want to work towards a rough definition of ascetic. What part of speech is it? Does someone want to shout out what they have?
Adjective.
Good, okay, great. Give you a few more seconds to look for some context and determine a definition. Okay, great. Would someone like to share their definition?
I said that ascetic probably means simple or without ornation.
Great, okay. And what clues in that passage pointed you to that definition?
Nothing beyond a subsistence.
Good.
Her dress was of a coarse material.
Cool. Does anyone else have a definition they're proud of?
I had basic.
Basic, good. And any other evidence that you had?
The word plainest.
Plainest, good. Okay, great. So the dictionary definition of the word ascetic is characterized by or suggesting the practice of severe self-discipline and abstention from all forms of indulgence. So that's a kind of complicated way of saying what you guys got to. That was great. Okay, for the last one, we are going to kind of speed through those steps, which I will remind you are determining your familiarity with the word, determining the part of speech, identifying elements of the word to give you a clue to its meaning, confronting the context, and then getting a working definition. So we're going to do that all as quickly as possible and try to jump right to a definition. Would someone like to read the third passage?
I will.
Okay, great.
Pearl looked as beautiful as the day, but was in one of those moods of perverse merriment, which, whenever they occurred, seemed to remove her entirely out of the sphere of sympathy or human contact. She now skipped irreverently from one grave to another until, coming to the broad, flat, armorial tombstone of a departed worthy, perhaps of Isaac Johnson himself, she began to dance upon it.
Okay, so we're looking at the word irreverently. So we're going to try to motor through those steps mentally. And does anyone have an idea right away what they think the word irreverently might mean? You can just shout it out if you have a thought.
Without concern.
Without concern, great. Anything else?
Careless.
Careless. Okay, good. The dictionary definition of the word irreverently is lacking proper respect or seriousness. So we kind of jumped through that, and that worked out really well. So it seems like we got a pretty good grasp on how to determine the meaning of the word using context clues. Excellent.
Alright, so we are going to be doing a chant about the steps to writing an essay. In order to write a good essay, you have to first read very carefully. Second, you have to develop a thesis or an argument, something that you want to say about what you've read. Third, you want to support that argument with evidence from the text or whatever other source you're using. And then finally, you want to tie together all of your thoughts and use your introduction and conclusion to kind of show the importance of what you're talking about. So, what you want to do is read your materials carefully, develop a thesis, then you'll see. If you support your argument with evidence, you can tie together your thoughts so that everything makes sense. And that's how you write a good essay. Let's try that one more time. Read your materials carefully, develop a thesis, then you'll see. If you support your argument with evidence, you can tie together your thoughts so that everything makes sense. Sounds good. Sounds like you're ready to write a good essay.